Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. What a show we have in store for you today. We've got a lot to cover. There are so many events going on locally. We'll be promoting those, so get your calendar ready, get your pen ready to write down the information. Also, a little bit later on in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with Michaela Rossetti Azimi. She is a candidate for Steuben County and Family Court Judge. We had her opponent, Matt McCarthy, on last Friday, making this a Meet the Candidates Friday. How about that? That's coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. Waves coming in. First comment from a viewer. Never mentioned by many, but a great high school marching band here in Corning. Crystal City Band Competition. The event will be held Saturday at Corning Memorial Stadium in Corning at 5:45 p.m. Did I write that right? That's a very specific time, 5:45 p.m. There you go. Thank you for that. Always appreciate the last-minute PSAs. I'll try to read that again during the program because there is a lot. For some reason, I was having a conversation with a couple different people. The 21st of September, very popular day for events around our area, so we'll try to get to as many as possible. Originally, I was going to save this piece until around 7:40 when I figured teachers were already at work, so I wouldn't get too much pushback. But I'm going to mention it right at the jump because I'm not a coward. Feel free to push back. This coming from the New York Post. New York is the best state to be a public school teacher. That comes from a report from the financial services consumer site Wallet Hub. But as the New York Post says, we believe it. But too bad it's not so great for the students. The state offers educators ironclad employment protection. Teachers here earn the nation's highest average pay with reliably generous and regular salary increases, while the pupil-teacher ratio ranks among the lowest. But the highest per-student spending in the nation doesn't produce the best graduates in America. The latest test scores show that less than half of all kids, remember that number, less than half of all kids statewide in grades 3 through 8 are proficient or above in English, and barely more than half in math. New York still has many great teachers, but its public education system is growing ever worse, even as it's costing the taxpayer even more. And we can talk about the attempt to end the Regents system. Teaching in the Empire State has become a cushy, well-paid job because the teachers' unions wield enormous political power, both in Albany and most school districts. Enrollment is plummeting as families flee the public schools and even the state, but legislators ensure districts are held harmless from what should be corresponding cuts in state aid. They even imposed a class-size law in New York City, but New York City only, to force it to hire more teachers, even though enrollment is down by more than 100,000 students, roughly 10% from the pre-COVID level. And the New York Post says, don't even get started on the retirement benefits, far in excess of what most New York private sector workers enjoy, or the way the union's pawns dictate ever more relaxed academic standards, lest the failure to teach grow more obvious. The union's ally with progressives, who also water down school discipline, directly harm all students and leaving teachers less safe as well. But the Wallet Hub folks forgot to ask about that part. So I thought I'd start with lighting the match and seeing what people think about that, especially the teachers getting ready to go into work this morning. Hey, speaking of the kind of the education system, if you will, we've talked so often about the EV mandates on buses and how school districts are forced to have the EV buses before even Albany and before all of New York State, I should say, really, has EV equipment and the vehicles they use. This is a new study coming out of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And it shows that electric vehicle batteries are so heavy. Now, this isn't specifically about school buses. This is about, I'm just trying to segue. Maybe not the most efficient segue. But the electric vehicle batteries, we've heard about the safety issues, the fires that even the fire crews won't put out because they're so dangerous. but they're so heavy that they will not be stopped by safety guardrails. So I understand that will be probably a new expense to taxpayers on top of everything else to get new guardrails, stronger guardrails. I'm not going to go through the specifics of the vehicles. But what the study finds is electric vehicle batteries make cars too heavy to be stopped by safety guardrails. Okay, we're going to go fast this morning because we do have that interview. We have a lot of local issues to get to, and I don't want to miss anything because perhaps you saw Kamala Harris speaking with Oprah in an effort to, again, dodge the media, dodge press conferences. Even there, a few things off script did not go great. Also, and I've had quite a few people point this out to me, and I don't want you to think I'm avoiding it. Yes, there was what is very strange, the supporters who sat behind Trump, or sat on stage, so behind Trump, at a rally in Arizona are suffering from mysterious eye injuries, saying it's unbearable, losing sight. We are going to talk about that as well. A few things here about Trump in general and the Harris campaign in general. First, Israel has unleashed a heavy strike on Lebanon. As it comes as no surprise, the United States and the United Kingdom urge restraint. Hey, we understand you have a right to defend yourself. We understand Israel is being attacked at all times. So can we tie your hands, make sure you don't win this, and then complain that not enough is being done for a ceasefire in general? The U.S. is afraid and concerned about potential escalation, said Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokesperson. Israeli warplanes carried out late on Thursday their most intense strikes on southern Lebanon in nearly a year of war, heightening the conflict between Israel and Lebanese armed group Hezbollah amid calls for restraint. I still can't get over, and I know we've talked about it extensively the last few days, I can't get over the pager and walkie-talkie attacks. It's so fascinating to me. Anxiety is mounting. They don't know what piece of electronic gear to trust. There's reports that people are shutting off baby monitors, televisions, laptops, because they're suspicious. Is the term the media uses, suspicious. I would say paranoid, and rightfully so, because of the, as Miranda Devine called it yesterday, masterstroke of psychological warfare. After 2 consecutive days of attacks, one, the pager, the next, walkie-talkies, the area is rattled. The explosions were an apparent attack by Israel on members of Hezbollah. Maybe tomorrow lighters will explode too, said a resident. If you want to light a cigarette, it will explode in your hand. I saw coverage, and again, I'm not going to say the outlet because I flipped through a little bit in the morning as I'm getting ready for work. And it is obviously a very, whatever way you want to look at it, late night or early morning news broadcast. But they showed a video, one of the more famous videos of the pagers going off. And just to show you this anti-Israel sentiment in the media and anti-Israel sentiment, obviously, in the Democrat Party, but the media specifically, saying, if you notice here, there were families around. Now, they averted any kind of injury. They were safe. But it could have happened. And then you see AOC, not mentioning Hezbollah, but mentioning the attack that I guess trying to suggest they're targeting innocents. It's the complete opposite. You could not have had a more precisioned attack, and one that has just wreaked havoc. People are asking, this is a headline from the United Kingdom, people are asking, what will explode next? Yeah, I mean, it's got to be in your mind, but at the same time, you've also got to think, well, I'm a little bit more safe if I don't have connections and ties to Hezbollah. It's fascinating. I think I could watch a documentary about how this all went down and just the precision, the time involved in this. And think of the fact if one pager in that shipment wasn't put together properly, where maybe you see a little bit of the explosive matter or some type of extra wire or something that just doesn't look right, and the suspicion grows and nothing is used, it's all a failed attempt. But instead, like clockwork, it was brilliant. Also, tying that in with the protests that we're seeing, because AOC protesting that move of the pager explosions, and we're seeing on college campuses, similar. Did you see what Columbia's interim president, yes, because Columbia University's president finally stepped down, what was it, like a week before school started? Well, the interim president, Katrina Armstrong, is being slammed by members of the school's Jewish community after she apologized to anyone who felt, and I quote, hurt by the administration's decision to clear out the campus's destructive anti-Israel protests last spring. Armstrong said, I know that this is tricky for me to say, but I do understand that I sit in this job, right? And so if you could just let everybody know who was hurt by that I'm just incredibly sorry, she told the newspaper, a local newspaper. So think of what that means. And this is what I've been saying from the beginning on the program. The original Columbia president didn't step down or wasn't criticized for letting Jewish students feel intimidated, be harassed. She wasn't criticized for allowing these protests to grow unchecked and to become destructive and violent. None of that. That's not why she was criticized by the faculty and those in the media. She was criticized for having the audacity to call in the police to stop the destruction, to stop the violence. She continued, and I know it wasn't me, but I am really sorry. I saw it, I'm really sorry. So she's apologizing after the fact for the students that felt hurt as they were destroying property, harassing Jewish students. She feels sorry that they might have been hurt because police were called, people were called to stop the destruction. And I know Trump yesterday, we are going to move fast, but Trump slammed Harris for doing absolutely nothing to combat anti-Semitism and calls on her to disavow the support of all Hamas sympathizers. But if you look, she's trying to, like with everything, like not having policies and things like that, she's trying to straddle the fence with keeping the anti-Semitic strain of her party happy and keep the pro-Israel, which is becoming apparently less and less part of her party, happy, both of them happy. And that's why you see this weakening and this kind of waffling on Israel-Hamas. You haven't seen her disavow the support of all Hamas sympathizers. Some have speculated, and I think rightfully so, people in her own party, like Van Jones, who talked about the anti-Semitism marbling the Democrat Party, saying that Ben Shapiro, that's the conservative commentator, Governor Josh Shapiro, was not chosen to be her VP nod, which would have made sense because he's Pennsylvania. Everybody agrees that the road to the White House goes through Pennsylvania. She didn't pick him because of his Jewish heritage. So Trump said at it wasn't a rally. I wish I could remember the exact name of the group that he was speaking in front of. But he said that Kamala Harris has done nothing to combat the startling surge in anti-Semitism. Despite presiding over the explosion of anti-Semitism, Kamala Harris has done absolutely nothing. Oh, the event was called Fighting Anti-Semitism in America. She has not lifted a single finger to protect you or to protect your children or to even protect you with words. And he's not wrong. Kamala Harris said that the radical demonstrators on college campuses were, quote, human emotion should be this way. That is her message. All right. I know, we move fast on how many topics right there. We got comments coming in. Keep them coming in if you don't mind. We're just getting started. It's going to be a busy show, so stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Hesselson Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Struggling to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis? Talk to your doctor about #1 prescribed Entyvio, offering 2 maintenance options, including the Entyvio pen. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, potentially fatal brain infection, cannot be ruled out. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, sores, or are prone to infections. Liver problems can occur. Entyvio, relief, remission for real.
Entyvio, Entyvio, Entyvio. If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Call now and get this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. And if you call right now, as a bonus, we'll throw in a free annuity rate report. Don't miss out on this opportunity because supplies are limited. Both books are yours free, just for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-354-59.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Comment from a viewer: teachers, I know some. They can't wait till they can retire. It's not good in the schools. They can't speak up. It's funny, we all sit here and we have no idea what they make. The less you know is good for them. That's true. And the teachers union, the power. I mean, look at, and again, the teachers union not looking out for the best interest of the students, of course. If you look at the shutdowns during COVID and the extended shutdown for schools, which proved to be so disastrous for students in that learning curve. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Did you know this? And this is why I don't care for polls. I don't care for predictions. Because you start to see, as we've talked about so often on this program, the media talking about the momentum for Harris, right? The momentum. She's really just blown it out of the water. Yeah, sure, she's not giving interviews, things like that, but that's beside the point. An election forecaster who correctly called the 2020 results makes shock blowout claim in Trump-Harris race. A data scientist who predicted the outcome of the 2020 presidential election has anticipated a landslide, yes, a landslide for Kamala Harris. And what is a blow to former President Trump's hopes to reclaim the White House? Well, yeah, if there's a landslide, that would be quite a blow for the former president, wouldn't it? Northwestern University data scientist Thomas Miller said that Harris will knock Trump in a landslide election, telling Fortune magazine, quote, "It's gone from a drastic landslide in Trump's direction to a drastic landslide in Harris." Miller first gained attention after he accurately predicted the 2020 presidential election by unconventionally using betting markets rather than traditional polls to forecast the outcome. Okay, so the guy predicts one race. And now he's a forecaster? Interesting. Tell me what he thought in 2016. And maybe then we'll have a little more oomph. But do you see how they can put out articles like that? You'll see polls that they put out that is so close. Oh, basically Harris is winning every swing state. They do these type of things to convince you. Well, first of all, it's all over but the shouting. No sense voting, Republicans. On the other side, it's to convince that there's actually this alleged momentum. Now, if there's this momentum, there seems to be some concern, and we've heard some rumblings, and I actually have a piece on it here, about Harris and her lack of, policy, her lack of substance, and the lack of doing interviews and lack of press conferences. Now, yes, yesterday she went to Oprah Winfrey, and it was a star-studded campaign event. Even Oprah Winfrey, in what could only be considered a softball campaign rally, she even had to essentially nudge Harris to get to her point. The 2-hour Unite for America live stream event from Michigan was meant to highlight the grassroots organizers that are backing Harris and give voters an opportunity to ask her about her platform. But the Democrat presidential nominee didn't offer any new policy proposals. At one point in the evening, Harris was questioned about what she would do to secure the southern border, right? I mean, she's been essentially in charge for 3.5 years. She was a border czar, even though the media tells us now she wasn't, which is really convenient. Did nothing. This is what her response was. So it's a wonderful and important question. My background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 years of the border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Harris began in her 3-minute answer that ended with blasting Republicans for not passing the bipartisan border bill. So Winfrey finally interjected after 3 minutes of rambling and saying, so to answer Justin's question, now that the bill is gone and it hasn't passed, will you introduce it? Or will you introduce? And Harris cuts off Winfrey and says, absolutely. When I'm elected as president of the United States, I'll make sure that bill gets to my desk and I will sign it into law. Of course, without offering any new policies on how to solve the crisis at the southern border. Now, this event, if you watched any of it, was meant to reach a large number of voters through Winfrey's presence and a number of simultaneous streaming platforms on social media. And they had celebrities like Chris Rock and Ben Stiller there. She also spoke at length about abortion, saying it's immoral to say that a person has no right to make a decision about what happens to their body and being violated. She also reiterated that she wants to offer new homeowners $25,000 for their down payment, increase tax deductions for new small business owners, and the child tax credit. She also said, and you may have seen this as well, especially for our more avid Second Amendment supporters out there, she had a kind of off-the-cuff response about, she did one of those things where I support the Second Amendment, but I also support banning assault rifles. I support background checks, boom, 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 right? So she began by saying, I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun owner. And Oprah just gasped. I did not know that. It was so canned, so staged. And that's when Harris said, and they say it's off the cuff. I don't believe it is. I believe everything she does is staged and scripted. She said, if somebody breaks into my house, they're going to get shot. How many people, especially in the Democrat Party, are gun owners to say, hey, I'm a gun owner, but just out of curiosity, it's kind of like, I'm a registered Republican, but I can't support Trump. Granted, I've never actually voted for a Republican, but back when I was 18, I registered Republican. It's the same kind of thing. I'm a gun owner. When's the last time you went out and shot at just a target? When's the last time you cleaned that gun? When's the last time you maybe even took it out of the box? But if you say, someone who was kind of famous for it at the time was Senator Gillibrand. When she was in a conservative district, when she was in Congress, she was a gun owner and she owned guns. When she became senator, quite the contrary. So if somebody breaks into my house, they're going to get shot. And then she does this whole, I bet I shouldn't have said that. I'll let my handlers deal with that later. Yes. One of those great gun owners that want to ban certain guns and go after guns. I see it. We got to take a break. My goodness. I forgot I haven't taken my second break. We're going to talk more about the Oprah interview with Kamala Harris. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never-clean glass-treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory-trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
New Yorkers are tough and work hard. Service jobs, office jobs, jobs that make you sweat. Respect to those retired from hard jobs, living on a fixed income, because everyone works to make ends meet. Life can be tough, but paying your energy bill shouldn't be. And finding ways to keep more of your hard-earned money isn't easy. Until now. New York State and New York State Utilities have partnered to build New York Energy Advisor, a one-stop site to find programs and resources that lower your energy costs to help you stay comfortable. It's quick, it's easy.
And then it's done.
Go to energyadvisor.ny.gov and get help to spend less.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're talking about the Oprah event with Kamala Harris, and I will get to some announcements about events coming up this weekend. So keep that in mind. Grab your pen, grab your calendar. Okay, on Thursday's broadcast of CNN's Newsnight, host Abby Phillip stated that 2024 Democratic presidential candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the event with Oprah Winfrey is, quote, part of a strategy that the Harris campaign is putting out there, which is to largely avoid doing interviews because she doesn't necessarily do well in interviews. This is coming from CNN, Abby Phillip. These events are part of a strategy the Harris campaign is putting out there, which is to largely avoid doing interviews. They're not necessarily setting that where she shines. So they're doing this instead. And this was very different for her. Might it work? Will this be enough? We have less than 50 days until the election. I don't know. I mean, listen, I watched some of it, watched some of the clips. To me, it seems so fake. I know I've said this before about Walls, too. It just seems phony to me that everything's so scripted. I don't know. And even CNN reported on this early in the week. I brought it to you on the show. That the undecided voter wants substance, right? And even though the media tells us Harris won the debate, the undecided voters were saying there was no substance there, so there's no win. And we haven't learned anything since. Less than 50 days. Later on the show, Van Lathan said the Oprah event was a home game for Harris and that voters want to see her be willing to answer questions. Phillips agreed that voters want to see Harris show a willingness to answer questions and stated, quote, I think that this is a really important point because the idea is not necessarily that she has to fill in all the blanks on all the policy. It's actually that she needs to be the person that she was with Oprah in other settings as well. She didn't do that great with Oprah. So, I mean, what happens? She's surely not going to go to a hostile network. And I wouldn't even say Fox would be hostile. I think they would end up erring on the side of caution and being more softball, if I'm being honest. But she has nowhere to go that's really going to be hostile, where Trump's only place to go and Vance's only place to go is hostile networks, essentially. It says here, so Harris, and this is from an opinion piece, or not an opinion piece, an actual piece from the New York Post. Kamala Harris is giving the press and Americans the silent treatment. The vice president is on track to grant the fewest interviews of any major party's presidential nominee ever. And it's not just because she entered the race historically late. Since President Biden ended his re-election bid on July the 21st, Harris has given just 6 sit-downs, leaving both her allies and critics wanting more. And she's picked her spots, opting for relatively friendly environments like with Dana Bash and being joined at that point by her running mate Walls. She also sat down with Philadelphia's ABC station, Spanish language radio host. Oh, I got cut off. Well, that's weird. By comparison, former President Trump has done at least 3 times as many interviews in the same period, with some lasting at least an hour, such as his recent one on X. Meanwhile, vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance has become a regular guest on the Sunday Morning Network Public Affairs program. Even in Harris's limited public availability, she's been unable to avoid awkward moments and the word salad for which her critics have so regularly mocked her. In the CNN interview, Harris responded to Bash's first question, asking her to explain the many apparent policy reversals from her 2020 run. She said, by insisting, quote, "My values have not changed," providing an opening for Trump to attack, of course. When asked at the NABJ panel about slavery reparations, she said, "We need to speak truth about the generational impact of our history in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow laws." I could go on and on and on. These are facts that have impact, and we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that's about deriving solutions. We can go on and read about the word salads. We know it. These moments would be enough for any campaign to want their candidate to show their face less. Keep them out, kind of the basement strategy that worked for Biden. But psychiatrist and body language expert Carol Lieberman told the New York Post she suspects that there's a deeper-seated issue, that Harris is anxious under questioning. Harris's campaign team may not fully understand the psychological roots for why she is so anxious not to be, quote, found out. But they see the symptoms and have figured out that the less we see of them, the better. Interesting. If I were advising her, I would tell her to do less media unless it was in situations where she could be more confident that they like her, like at the Oprah setting. And really, Dana Bash, right? So anyway, the party's getting a little anxious. We know that she has decided or opted for more local interviews, interviews like that with Oprah at a campaign event. The New York Post editorial board puts it this way: that Kamala Harris loves democracy so much, she's refusing to speak to the people she wants to vote for her. She has done 3 interviews since July 21st and has held 0 press conferences. In other words, the same old strategy from Joe Biden's 2020 run. Hide the candidate in the basement and hope, correctly, that the legacy media will cooperate and go easy. And that's exactly what they're doing. You get a little pushback here and there, but it's minuscule compared to the praise. And at the same time, praising her and her momentum. And wow, she was on Oprah. And look how much fun Oprah had. And they show the clip of Oprah doing her yell at the beginning of the person's name. Is all positive. Then you look at the coverage of Trump. All negative, all about Springfield, Ohio, all about it's his fault for the second assassination attempt on his own life, those type of things. So it's twofold. It's not just the praise and the building up and the hyping up of Harris. It's also the attacks on Trump. And so as the Post says, they believe the Harris campaign, and rightly, that the legacy media will protect her. Democrat VP candidate Tim Walz is also playing clam up with 4 interviews and also 0 press conferences. I've got to say, I think J.D. Vance sometimes does 4 interviews on a Sunday for the major public affairs programs. It's insane that the campaign knows it can get away with it. That's the frustrating part of it all, isn't it, folks? They know that they're not going to get called to task over this, especially given the fact that Harris was installed as the nominee only after Joe's senility became too severe in public for those camouflage efforts to work any longer. Add in the facts that Harris is a, 1, serial flip-flopper, another part of the strategy that relies on liberal journalists playing along, and 2, Walz is best known for failing to prevent the biggest COVID fraud in the nation and letting Minneapolis burn during the Floyd riots. And it's truly mind-boggling. Yeah, so add those. Harris obviously flip-flopping on all her core positions from back in 2019. And then you add all of Walz's concerning background. But you've got to take to the fact, put that all aside. I think the biggest issue here is you had a candidate that was never voted on to be president of the United States and now is running for that job. There was no primary this year. There was no press conferences, anything like that. And again, the media is, for lack of a better term, letting her get away with it. In comparison, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have done more than 70 interviews and press conferences combined over that same time period. Vance alone has done more than 7 times more than Harris and Walz put together 7 times more than Harris and Walz put together. We could hazard a guess why. Harris oversaw the Biden administration's border disaster, letting in millions of illegal migrants, inflicting mass pain and misery, including per Fed chair Jerome Powell driving up national unemployment rates. He admitted that, 2 days ago? I think we ran out of time to talk about it yesterday. But Jerome Powell saying the influx of illegal immigrants is driving up national unemployment rates. She's also a hardcore Frisco lefty from way back. She hates Israel and backed sex change surgery for ICE detainees and plenty of other woke madness. And remember when that came up? Someone brought that up on a news show, and the hosts were, no, Trump said it can't be true. And they had to look into it. And yes, that is very true. They know, people around her know that if voters got to know who she really is and what she really thinks, she'd be toast. That's true for Tim Walz, too. The less said and seen, the better. This is an actual disinfo op, denying crucial knowledge so that the American people, the American voter, can't make an informed decision in November. So as we here on this program and so many in the Republican Party want you to be the most informed voter, they want the opposite. They don't want you to know. You didn't even have a chance to vote for her if you're a Democrat. As a matter of fact, the person you voted for as a Democrat was ousted by the party elites. And apparently the party's okay with it. And none of our self-appointed, quote, guardians of democracy seem to care. Not at all. As long as at the end of the day, Trump doesn't win. All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Enjoy a taste Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
With a lunch and dinner menu, we serve a variety of delicious dishes made with locally sourced ingredients. Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. We're open until 9 p.m. Thursday through Monday, but the bar is open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays. Stay tuned for live music. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready, we're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
I'm Marianne Burke. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple of quick comments from viewers. The problem is, the more people know about Harris, the less they like her. The mainstream media know that. So they're going to stay relatively quiet about her not getting exposure. Well, that's exactly right. The media, and I remember during Obama, they did this quite a few times as well, where he wouldn't give press conferences. And, you know, the reporters would get mad. So what they do is about once a quarter, once every other quarter, they'd put out a little piece going, we wish you'd do more, and nothing ever came from it. Same here. You'll have like one of these CNN reporters going, well, she's not really giving much much attention to the media or not answering questions, and they'll be off. That's it. I mean, it's not as if they're demanding anything. I mean, if they really cared, they'd say, we're going to pull back from from traveling with you. We're not going to cover your rallies. We're not going to cover when you go into that diner and try to meet the voters to push back. But they won't ever do that because you're right. They're trying to protect her just like they did Joe Biden. And I mean, you could be a Democrat, you can be a Republican, you can be an independent. You can see it in real time. I mean, it's not a conservative bias mentality that's saying this, because if you look at it, even Democrats, even people in her own party are saying that she's hiding from the media. Anyway, next comment from a viewer. This is from Ken. Hi, Ken. I'm dying to have someone ask her what kind of gun, what caliber, what manufacturer, and where does she shoot. I bet she mixes up a word salad for the answer. Oh, absolutely. I don't think she would have an answer. I wouldn't even believe it until I saw it, that she had one. And if she has one, it's probably in the original box. It's one of those scenarios. You buy one as a Democrat, then you can say, I'm a gun owner, but I believe in taking people's guns away. That type of thing. It's just kind of a PR tactic, right? But I agree with you. And speaking of that, because I know we have a big section of this audience that are big Second Amendment supporters that do so much in defense of our Second Amendment rights. And a group that's really remarkable, and we're going to have them on to update you. Early on in the show, in the early days, we had Bobby Joe on to talk about the Armed Women of America, the Steuben County chapter. And it's been a while, and I want to make sure, and they're doing great, by the way, but we want to build them up. But they also have an amazing event coming up. Again, Saturday. Everything is Saturday. I'm not sure how good you can read that, so I am going to kind of read it for you. But October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So to be prepared for October, the Armed Women of America Steuben County chapter is supporting the Steuben County Domestic Violence Shelter. So stop by their tent located at Tractor Supply in Painted Post on Saturday from 9 a.m. until 3, tomorrow from 9 a.m. until 3, and drop off any of those items I hope that you can see on the screen. I'm not going to read the whole list, but that was a good segue. Gave me an opportunity to help support not only the Steuben County Domestic Violence Shelter, but help the Armed Women of America, who do so much. They do a lot around Christmas time, and again, I will be talking with them soon. Oh, a lot of comments coming in. All right, we'll read those when we come back from the next break. Hey, did you see Joe Manchin? Boy, he's got that streak in him that he loves the attention too, right? He said basically that Harris isn't clear on how she's going to pay for her plans, really even what her plans are, and doesn't know if Walz is too far left. I want to see if people recognize the debt that we're carrying right now. How do we get your financial house in order? Recognize there's $35.4 trillion unprecedented debt, more than we've ever carried before. What we're doing, no matter what you're saying you want to do, and all these programs you want to give so much for this and so much for that, new homes and businesses, what's the bill? What's it going to cost? Let's be realistic. People they don't live in la-la land. They have to worry about the finances every day. No one's talked about the finances of this country, he keeps saying. Kamala's saying all the right things. Tim Walz is a person that I worked with for 8 years when he was in Congress. Very good person to work with. That helped a lot. But then they said he's moved too far left. I don't know. I've had a couple of conversations with him, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm partial to governors anyway. And then he said that, again, Harris is saying all the right things. I'm unsure she'll do them. And then goes on to say, I like a lot of Trump's policies, but won't back him. And if I'm going to do an endorsement, I want to make sure that I believe the person that I'm talking to and working for is going to follow through. That depends on who they put around them. So that's why he wants to have a direct conversation with Harris. This is Joe Manchin again, if you're just joining us. He also said that he can't vote for Trump because, quote, if you can't accept an orderly transfer of power, if you can't basically stop or decry an insurrection, that's a problem for me. I like a lot of his policies. Okay, that's Joe Manchin. Let's take another break. I'm running late this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Struggling to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis? Talk to your doctor about #1 prescribed Entyvio, offering 2 maintenance options, including the Entyvio pen. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, potentially fatal brain infection, cannot be ruled out. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, sores, or are prone to infections. Liver problems can occur. Entyvio, relief, remission for real.
Entyvio.
It's time.
Let's go and check for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeople.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street, and recording some comments from viewers before we move along. Man, this hour's going fast. Okay. Ken says it's harder to hide a candidate without the aid of a pandemic. With the legacy media starting to report slightly negative on her, there could be an October surprise coming. There could be. I don't think. Boy, I know what you're saying about the pandemic, but I do think the media can run the clock out on this. I don't think, yes, they can give a little pushback and say there should be more substance and the undecided voters want answers. But if Harris says, okay, the pros of giving an interview are that they get more kind of non-answers and maybe we get some more votes, the con is, and I'm anxious and I do a bad job, we could lose a lot of votes. So I think, I don't know, there was an old thing in radio, it never hurts you what you don't play, meaning a song that you don't play. So it doesn't hurt her with the things she doesn't say as much as what she does say. But next comment from a different viewer. It seems that if you're a liberal, you have to be a motivational speaker. They're never behind in a single poll. It's either within the margin of error or a landslide. They seem to have moved on from their prediction of Trump going to prison. So I guess they're still trying to stay positive about something. Thank you. Another comment from a different viewer. When I asked my Democrat friend, he responded with a shrug of the shoulders and changes the conversation. And that could be in reference to two things. And I've had conversations on both. One, that Harris is not giving interviews. I got a shrug on that. And also the fact that that no one voted for her to be the nominee for president of the United States for the Democratic Party. So I've had conversations, the same thing, and I know I've repeated it on this program, and again, it's anecdotal, but it's not Trump. I don't care that we didn't get the vote for her. And I think a little bit of that is they're getting used to it, right? Especially if you were a Bernie supporter. They stole it from Bernie the first time, absolutely, against Hillary. Second time, kind of too. So I think the Democrats realizing the fix was in where the elites had already picked Hillary Clinton, so the Bernie supporters could have their fun, go to their rallies, have their T-shirts and their signs. But at the end of the day, it was never going to be Bernie because the elites chose. So I think maybe it's just kind of that they're beaten down. The Democrat voters know that the elites and the money, the big money, are going to make the decisions for them, and maybe they like that. Maybe there's a part of them that like that I don't have to make the decision. Sure, I'll go and vote for the candidate, but it might not be the candidate at the end of the day. I mean, all those votes for Biden, you went out and bothered to vote, and at the end of the day, there was a group of party leaders that some of them you may not even know their names, got to decide, and big money, don't take away big money, decided who the candidate was going to be. And not you, because they don't trust the voters of their own party. So you've got to ask the question, do they trust the voters of America? I think the answer for that is obvious. But yes, whatever one you're referencing, either Harris not giving interviews or Harris not getting a single vote to be where she's at, yeah, the same. I've received the same response from friends. And I thought this was a good point. When she says she has a gun, her gun is probably a stun gun. Well, yeah, technically she could do that. She could say it's a gun. That's interesting. That's kind of funny. Did you see the CNN reporter? Don Lemon did this recently too, where they lecture the man on the street interview that they're doing. So Don Lemon came up to somebody and they said, I'm broke. I can't afford my groceries. I can't afford to pay the bills. He goes, no, actually, And that's misleading. You're wrong. Did you see my stats? Did you see that? You want to see my numbers? Because you're actually very unintelligent. The economy's doing great. You know, they keep saying that to people that are struggling to make it buy and make do. So a CNN reporter clashed with a supporter of former President Trump over whether he should have concerns about the economy. It was CNN's Ellie Reeve interviewing a Trump supporter at a MAGA boat parade in Panama City, Florida. At one point, she got into a heated discussion with Trump supporters. You ever notice that heated discussions only ever happen when it's a Republican? Because they gotta fix those ignorant Republicans, right? Because he said the economy was his number one concern, telling Reeve that everything was too expensive. I think that's fair. I think you've experienced, I've experienced. She chimed in to lecture him for thinking that way. She said, let me maybe ask a slightly impolite question. But you know, if you can afford a boat, you're not hurting so bad, right? Can you imagine the audacity? So don't you understand, Trump supporter? You are literally supposed to go to work and come home. You're not supposed to have any leisure time. You're supposed to be a worker bee. You're supposed to pay your taxes so the government can misspend that money. You can work hard every day to keep the economy going. But if your prices go up on anything, you better not complain about it. Just keep working, keep your head down. You should have no rest and relaxation. I mean, this guy has the audacity to own a boat. So how can he complain about the cost of everything going up? She said because a boat costs a lot of money. It's a lot of upkeep. That's when Harner, the guy being interviewed, got mad. He said, listen, nobody gave me, we'll say, anything. I earned everything that I've got. I'm retired military, retired power plant, and I am successful and retired with boats and jet skis because I did it right. And everybody has that chance, whether they choose or not. That's up to them. Well, Reeve responded, I would never try to take anything away from you in that way. Well, aren't you really? If you continue to support these economic policies that are destroying the country and destroying our pocketbooks, aren't you really kind of in a backwards way, not even, in a real way, taking away these things? That if this gentleman's prices keep going up, does he have to sell the boat? That's essentially what she's threatening in a way. She said, but what I'm asking is groceries are probably a smaller part of your budget than, say, someone who's like a little worse off. Man, the audacity. The CNN show their true colors with this. That's considered a news reporter, folks. I think it's interesting that people who are a little bit more comfortable and are still so concerned about the economy. Do you see what I'm saying? Are you intelligent enough to see my really ignorant statement? He said, because I want my money to go further. I want inflation to go down. I want interest rates to go back up or go back down. I want all that. But that covers everybody in the economy. Not just me, not just the poor, not just the rich. It covers everybody. After Reeve asked Hammer if he was worried his kids wouldn't be able to afford a house or a car, he said, I trained my kids and taught my kids properly. They have great educations and they're both successful in their careers. Actually, they're doing better than me. Good for him. I mean, the audacity of that question. That is CNN in a nutshell. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Last break of this hour. Stay with us.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you are on regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Hour number one, nearly in the books. Let's go through a couple of quick announcements, and we have a couple other in the next hour as well. There's just so many great community events going on this weekend that I don't want to miss it. I want to get that news to you. First of all, coming up later on in the program, we'll talk to Michaela Rossetti Azimi. She's running for Steuben County and Family Court Judge. We had her reporting on last Friday, so it's a Meet the Candidate Friday. All right, first up, we had a guest on yesterday, Charlotte Smith. Don't forget, Heritage Festival is tomorrow from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m., and that's, you can find out more at the heritagevillagesfl.org, and that is from 10 to 4 tomorrow at the Benjamin Patterson Inn. We brought up, let me see here. Yeah, we're good for a little bit. Oh, one thing I haven't brought up, and I should mention it quickly, is our good friends at the book sale here in Corning. I know that's a popular one. I wrote down the times for you there. Well, typed up the times for you. The fall book sale kicks off tomorrow, 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. That's for members only, but then you see the schedule there. Remember that it is cash or checks only, and this year it's at 100 Nazar Civic Center. That's in the Union Hall. So make sure, if you are an avid reader, that you put those times on your calendar and make sure you make it out to the book sale. All right. Well, that does it for hour number one. When we come back, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about Trump, the attacks on Trump, his campaign. We do have a few things here about in general. I don't know if you saw kind of the breaking news yesterday that RFK Jr. and a reporter might have been having a type of textual affair over text, which is interesting because his wife, who's received so much grief because RFK supported Trump. Well, we could talk about that if you want. Also, if you want to talk about, of course, they call him Trump's protege at CNN. But in North Carolina, the Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson, some information coming out about some things he may have said online. CNN found this bombshell. They're trying to suggest it could bring down Trump somehow. We could talk about that as well. I haven't had a chance because in the next hour we're going to talk, and it's going to be early. It's probably going to be right around 7:10. We're going to start our interview, so keep that in mind. So I'll have a couple more announcements in the next hour. As always, if you are new to the program, you can comment on the bottom of your screen. And by the way, this is a Friday show, so we can talk about anything. Just let me know. But the number on the bottom of the screen, you can text or leave a voicemail at any time. Weigh in on the issues of the day that we're bringing up. Did you watch Harris and Oprah? What did you think? Are you concerned, if you're a Democrat or even if not, are you concerned that the candidate that has not received a vote to be the nominee for a major party's presidential campaign, never receiving a vote, that she isn't answering questions, is going on in places like Oprah to, as CNN said, avoid doing media? Does that concern you? I haven't really thought of too many other off-the-wall questions this morning. Yesterday we had a great conversation about the Teamsters Union not endorsing Trump, but not endorsing Harris, more importantly. So not endorsing Harris, of course, is a sign that they endorse Trump. But feel free to weigh in at any time. Right now, we need to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back with hour number 2. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
I'm Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020. We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is...
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you.
Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit Adopt US Kids.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I am your host, Frank Acom. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We still have a lot to cover, and as I said, coming up in a little bit, Michaela Rossetti Azimi, the candidate for Steuben County and Family Court Judge, will be our guest in about 10 minutes here. We mentioned this at the top of the program, but I didn't go into depth, and I received from a lot of people various articles on this, and it is very, very troubling. At a time when we've seen former President Trump survive 2 assassination attempts, and what's really interesting about the second one, and I hope we have an opportunity to get to it. We will before the show's over, but soon. The New York Post put together the biggest whoppers. They have that kind of whopper thing that they do on Friday. This is a special one where they put together all the examples of where the left is actually blaming Trump for the assassination attempt on his own life. Yeah, it's really weird. And by the way, we'll get to this later as well. Did you watch Trump on Gutfeld? I ran out of time yesterday. I watched some of the highlights. I want to see the whole thing. I probably watched maybe half an hour of the hour program. What were your thoughts? It's so interesting to see the difference between Harris in a scripted event with Oprah. Have the star power there of Oprah. So it's kind of scripted and kind of awkward. Everything seems rehearsed. I know Tulsi Gabbard said about the debate, and I think it was about Oprah's. She didn't say it about Oprah's thing, but I would echo it for Oprah's thing, which is her Hollywood friends, her Hollywood donors, her Hollywood supporters must have taken her aside and taught her kind of the emoting, I think is what they call it, but the acting, the over-the-top acting. So you see her in that scenario where it looks uncomfortable to me. And then you see Trump and the wit, the off the cuff, cracking jokes, saying things that are making news. So going from politics to jokes to talking about the various members on the panel. I thought there's a clear contrast between those two. Now, I would say most people probably aren't watching both, maybe. They're probably, each of those are probably more for a person that's already decided, maybe. But I would recommend anybody, even if you're not a Trump supporter, watch the Gutfeld episode. But anyway, so Trump supporters who sat on stage, well, that was a heck of a tangent from where I started, during the Arizona rally are suffering from mysterious eye injuries. Multiple Donald Trump supporters claim they suffered a mysterious eye injury and were forced to seek medical attention over the, quote, unbearable pain after sitting behind the former president during his rally in Arizona. Mayra Rodriguez was among Trump's most loyal backers, seated in a confined portion of the right side of the stage behind the former president in Tucson on September 12th. Rodriguez claimed she started experiencing eye irritation when she exited the venue following the nearly 80-minute speech. Like all of us, she thought, allergies, something like that. But then her eyes began burning. Think it was just her allergies. Rodriguez got in her car and began the 90-minute drive back home to Phoenix. However, her eye irritation became so severe during her ride home that she rushed to the emergency room. They don't know. The nurses are saying it looks as if she was sprayed with something. But nothing, of course, was sprayed at the time. Her symptoms only continued to worsen the following day. I can't see anything when I try to open my eyes. I see a bright light. It hurts. It hurts a lot to open my eyes. I have this cold cloth I put on and take off constantly. It's horrible. Medical personnel were unable to come up with a diagnosis of exactly what caused her eye injuries. But they wanted to make clear that it was not the venue's bright lights that did it, which many speculated at first. Her vision has proved as of the other night. Now, a brother and sister who wish not to be identified said they were sitting next to Rodriguez and made very similar claims. It kept getting worse and worse, they said. My eyes were watering a lot. My nose started running. Then I started feeling my face get really flushed, and my neck felt like it was on fire. And it just progressed from there. As for her brother, she described the same pain that just kept growing. Something to keep, I guess, in mind. You know, you wonder exactly what's going on. Because, I mean, listen, there's so much anger out there. There's so much division. And unfortunately, the politicians and the media are only making it worse. You know, think about it, and I know so many people have said this. Okay, the first time there was an assassination attempt on the former president in Butler, everybody knew about it. I mean, people were calling, texting each other, are you watching this, that type of thing. The second, when did you find out about it? It's like, I can't remember what the author's name was, but he was at a casino, and he said, I bet you know, what, 5% on the casino floor looked at their phone to see, you know, that maybe got a text or looked at their feed. No one even knew. It wasn't as if they broke into the games on TV or breaking news. It was shrugging his shoulders. And that, again, that author's point, and I wish I could remember his name, is that's very terrifying for a country if you start to become desensitized and numb to something like that, an attempted assassination on a former president. But they've made matters worse in the media by now blaming Trump for the assassination attempts on his life. The New York Post editorial board, as I mentioned, put together a list of, I guess you could say, the worst offenders. Thomas Nicholas from The Atlantic on Monday said no other president has used an assassination attempt to inflame American politics the way Donald Trump does. Hillary Clinton on Monday, fanning the flames, said Trump is a danger to our country and the world. That's on Monday, the day after another thwarted assassination attempt on the former president. Trump is a danger to our country and the world. The Hill, their headline was GOP seethes after second apparent assassination attempt at Trump. Can you believe it? The GOP's mad about their nominee and former president having another assassination attempt on his life. They're mad. They're going to use this to go after Democrats. The New York Times on Tuesday said the anger that defines and threatens Trump. Again, his own fault. Dallas Morning News on Tuesday said sense of duty apparently drove suspect. The headline again, sense of duty apparently drove suspect. Drove suspect. Wouldn't that then speak to what Trump has been saying, that it's the rhetoric of the left and the media that have caused these people to become unhinged and go after him? Because why would you have a sense of duty? Would you have a sense of duty if you've been told, every day for how many years now, almost a decade, that this man is a threat to democracy, that it's the end of America as we know it? He's Hitler-esque, Mussolini-esque. Is that where he got his sense of duty? Because when Trump said that and when J.D. Vance said that the hate in that party is fueling and the rhetoric is fueling these attacks on Trump, they got pushed back and they got attacked by the media. And then there's a column, another chance for Trump to frame Democrats as dangerous has emerged. That's how they describe an assassination attempt. Another chance for Trump to frame Democrats as dangerous has emerged. That's Philip Bump at the Washington Post. And finally, the last one before we go to break. When Trump uses a language he does, the level of violence will increase, said Representative Jim Himes, Democrat from Connecticut. According to Media Research Center, 95% of major network coverage of Trump was negative after the second assassination attempt. Keep that in mind. All right. Before we go to break, and when we come back from break, we're going to talk to Michaela Rossetti Azimi. She is candidate for Steuben County and Family Court Judge. If you're new to the program, this is one of the goals of ours, and I think we've been doing a really good job of it. We even did a good job of it last year at election time, trying to have all the candidates on. So as always, I will say, if you are a candidate or you know a candidate or there's a candidate you'd like to see on, have them contact me or you contact me at that number on the bottom of the screen. We'll get something scheduled before the November election. Because we want to give voters, it's tough in the media market that we're in today to give voters an opportunity to find out who the candidate is. So when you go into the voting booth, you're not just voting for, I think I recognize that name, or because that's why I always bring up Tiffany Henyard out of Dolton, Illinois, the super mayor, self-described super mayor, who's bled the town dry, allegedly, financially, having lavish parties, lavish concerts, trips, those type of things. Because it goes back to my theory, and I think it's accurate, that if you would have known what you were voting for, you probably wouldn't have voted for her, right? The same goes for all the candidates. We want to know who they are, what their thoughts are, unbiased interviews. Just want to ask the who, what, when, where, and why, essentially, so that you are the most informed that you can possibly be. So that interview is coming up in just a second. Before that, if you would humor me, and this is probably the second to last time I will bring it up, but I can't tell you enough how great the viewers of Frankly Speaking are. I think unlike any other show on TV, on any network, I asked for donations. I'm going to put it up on the screen because it takes a little time. I asked for donations, and we received a great amount of donations. Tomorrow is the Walk to End Alzheimer's, and I'll be participating in it with Team Big Fox here. There's a few of us at Big Fox. If you remember Lisa, who's been on the program a few times, with Sylvia, the international exchange student. Lisa, also one of the voices of the Cardboard Boat Regatta. Well, she's going to be on the team as well. So if you'd like to donate to Team Big Fox, any of the members of the team, it doesn't have to be me. Does that exact website go directly to me? Yes, it does. But there's other ways you can look at the rest of the team. But it's not too late to register too, and that's really what's most important. If you want to register to be a part of the walk, think how cool that'll be. Get to walk around Watkins Glen International Racetrack tomorrow. I think it's going to be a fun fall event, and for such an amazing cause. And I know we come off the heels of asking for your help with the Salvation Army, but I'm not shying away, and I'm proud of the fact that we're, as a show focused on community, we're trying to help those in our community. And this is one that everybody wins. So if you do register, or if you are a volunteer, come on over and say hi to Big Fox. We'd love to talk with you. Even if you're a competitive team. If you're not, I don't think it works like that. But we'd love to hear from you. And it's not too late to donate to our team. So thank you for humoring me for that little bit of public service announcement. And thank you to everybody who has donated to the team. It means so much to me. All right. When we come back, our guests, stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
This is Alan. He's choosing to gamble on eating cheap gas station sushi. But when he gambles with money, Alan always makes responsible choices, like setting and sticking to his financial limits. Good luck, Alan. We all take risks in life. Just gamble responsibly.
Struggling with moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis? Talk to your doctor about #1 prescribed Entyvio, offering 2 maintenance options, including the Entyvio pen. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, potentially fatal brain infection, cannot be ruled out. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, sores, or are prone to infections. Liver problems can occur. Entyvio, relief, remission for real.
Entyvio. Oh, better tasting is better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Now there's a product that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it for you. Introducing the PowerXL StirMax Multi-Cooker with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your ingredients and walking away and coming back to meals that cook up to 60% faster. No more stirring food. StirMax technology automatically rotates the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise, so it stirs it for you. Powerful enough to even shred food. Then the 7.5 quart pot goes right to the table to serve. With a premium ceramic coating, nothing sticks. And it's dishwasher safe. Now you can try the PowerXL XL Sturmax multi-cooker with lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. You also get the steamer and rice basket for healthy meals, Sturmax serving spoon that snaps in place for easy serving, and $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order, all absolutely free. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
In a game of few words, Urkel, glasses, nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and we're talking about the Steuben County and Family Court Judge. Congratulations on the campaign.
Thank you so much, Frank.
How exciting is it?
Thrilling.
Thrilling. Good,
yes.
good. First of all, I've got to give the disclaimer, which is judge interviews or candidates for judge are a little bit on the boring side, not because of the job you do, because the job I have, which is I can't ask you specifics. So I just telling the viewer, you're not dodging any questions, and I'm not asking weak questions. Mm-hmm. Our hands are tied, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the campaign so far, and I think the best way to start is to talk about your background. Tell us about your background.
Absolutely. Well, Frank, as you know, I'm a Corning native.
Of course.
And I hope this doesn't get me kicked off the show.
No,
but I know we're on different sides here. I'm a proud East High Trojan.
Woo! No. Okay, well, time to go to break.
Yes.
No, that's...
But no, if your viewers here are watching from Corning, they'll know of the Rossetti family, and they'll probably think, big family. That's me. That's what I'm all about. Family is always number one for me. My extended family on both sides is from Steuben County, and I've chosen to raise my own family here too. You may or may not be aware that there's really only one qualification for becoming a judge in New York State at the county level, and that's 10 years of being licensed as an attorney.
Right.
Nothing else.
That's wild.
Right? No experience setting foot in a courtroom, no legal practice experience, nothing like that is required. Here in Steuben, though, we are so fortunate to have highly qualified attorneys and in our bar, and so the candidates in this role, as you know, have always had a lot to offer. My personal legal experience is vast, and it spans multiple counties and many substantive areas of law. I have represented clients in administrative hearings for disability appeals, foreclosures, bankruptcies, evictions, criminal matters, divorces, and the full range of family court cases. I feel really lucky that practicing here in Steuben County has given me the opportunity, since I was first admitted 12 years ago, to get that hands-on courtroom experience immediately. So the moment I was admitted, I'm in court. The breadth and variety of legal cases that I've handled really provide an incredible foundation for some experience for me to draw from, which I think is really valuable in this role. I've partnered also with cutting-edge experts in the legal field in my 7 years that I've been at Cornell Law School, and I've co-counseled some very impactful cases. Additionally, the wide reach of my litigation gives me perspective. So I've appeared in front of judges across many counties up here in rural upstate New York, and I've had moments where I've had judges who have made very calculating, discreet, admirable use of their discretion in court. But I've also had situations where I've seen and witnessed judges ostracizing people on the stand and re-traumatizing victims. So, through this process of appearing in many different counties in court, I've learned really the type of judge that I want to be.
Sure.
Fair, compassionate, and impartial, and ultimately someone who upholds the dignity of all people in our county in the courtroom. Not only do I bring this breadth of experience with me, but more specifically, my training and my education has uniquely positioned me for the responsibilities of family court.
Okay.
So as you know, this is a family court position. I've really focused my legal training and my practice in family court, mostly advocating for victims of domestic violence. As a woman and as a parent, safety for families in this community is paramount.
Sure.
I've studied the cycle of violence, and I've evaluated clients for the lethality risks when they share with me sometimes what they and their children have endured. I've helped countless families in this county really struggling in awful situations. My goal for clients as an advocate, which is what I've been for the last 12 years, has really been to minimize the threat that the court sometimes presents, as a way to re-traumatize victims. It's really important for me to allow victims to seek justice and to avoid that re-traumatization and to promote and support healthy family structures by connecting people to the wealth of resources and the service providers that we have here in Steuben County. I see myself as a connector, and I think that's why a lot of people reach out to me in that way. Finally, of course, in my personal life, my own family situation really makes me a special kind of candidate. If I am fortunate to have the confidence of the voters here, I will be the first mom in 200 years to ever serve in this role in our county.
Wow.
Yes. And so setting aside, though, the precedential significance of that, being a parent in and of itself gives me this frame of reference that I think is so valuable for the position. Let me tell you a quick story, if that's okay.
Of course.
When I was 8 months pregnant with my second child, I was in day 2 of a trial in a neighboring county. It was a very contentious custody trial. Both sides were having a difficult time coming to any sort of resolution, and there were allegations of domestic violence on both sides. My client disclosed what at best would be seen as a toxic home life situation. Very dangerous things going on. And the standard, of course, in family court is always what's in the best interest of the child. So that's what the court is looking to try to determine. In this situation, because of how difficult it was, the judge called for a Lincoln hearing, which is an opportunity for the judge to speak privately in chambers with the child.
Okay.
No parents are allowed back in this confidential, private situation. No attorneys for the parents are allowed either, and anything that's said in there is never allowed to come out. So whatever the child discloses to the judge is sealed. No testimony ever comes out. In this situation, as I mentioned, it was really contentious and difficult, horrible allegations, and the child had explained to the client, who was mom at this point in time, my client was really worried that her 6-year-old would have to go back and speak to this judge alone.
Sure.
Right? Very scary for her. She had endured some trauma as a child, and so the whole thing was terrifying. As a parent, my heart really broke for this little girl, and I was just hoping that the judge in the case would be empathetic, someone who had compassion and patience to really build trust with this child so they could disclose what was really going on, in a safe space. For me, again, safety at home, safety in our community, and safety in the courtroom is just really important to me. I have 3 young children, and I can tell you that I've learned so much about age-appropriate questioning and viewing the world from the eyes of a child, and how to really listen and have patience as a mom, and ultimately to respond with compassion. That's what I think I bring to this position, and I hope it serves me well.
Well, and you mentioned 3 young children. You're obviously a busy personal life, professional life.
Yes.
So kind of the simple question, and you somewhat answer, I believe, in your background, why did you decide to run for Steuben County and Family Court Judge?
Yeah, that's a great question. Growing up here in Corning, I frequently attended Rotary meetings with my dad.
Yeah, of course.
And that Rotarians' service above self refrain was something that really resonated with me. I actually wrote my law school essay on this, and service in the community became my primary motivator for becoming a lawyer. True to this mantra, I have always served my community in my personal life and my professional life in public service. That's the entirety of my experience has been in public service, whether that's pro bono legal work, advocating as a legal aid attorney, or serving on nonprofit boards. When I was asked to run for this position by the Democratic Committee, I was extremely honored, first of all, and I thought long and hard about whether this was the right decision for me. Is it the best way that I could use my skills to serve the community? That's always top of mind. And also, is it the right decision for me and my family? Ultimately, this opportunity I thought would allow me to make a difference in the community in a new way. And it really fit that public purpose for me of giving back and helping families. And also, I was thinking, what better example for me to set for my children than to continue to use my education and experience for good to give back to this county that I call home.
Yeah. Well, and you're a unique race, and we talked about it in the past. This is for Steuben County and Family Court Judge. With the retirement of Phil Roach, the race is shaping up different than most races. This is not a typical campaign, right? So have you found the shortened campaign time kind of an issue in running?
I haven't done this before,
So
for me, I don't have
So
any context.
Okay.
It's just, it is what it is, and I'm jumping in feet first. Just a little bit of brief history for you, and you may already know this, but when in the very beginning, New York State had an appointive process. It wasn't elected for the judicial process, and Steuben County was founded in 1796. So then for 50 years, judges in this county were appointed. They were not elected. And then in 1846, with the New York State Constitution, it changed to become an elected process. And the reason for that, in part, was to allow people in the county to hear directly from candidates, to evaluate their qualifications and fitness for the role, and ultimately to make that decision themselves.
Right.
So judges are responsible for so much. They handle disputes between private parties. They handle disputes between the government and citizens. And electing an impartial and independent judge is really critical to our democracy. There was this 1913 case, I'm always thinking case law as a lawyer, called In Re Rob. And it says that without public confidence, the judicial branch could not function. Well, how do we get that confidence in the judiciary? We give people a voice, right? And to have a voice in this process means a choice. So for me, I just feel really grateful to be able to do that, to offer a choice. As you know, the other judicial candidates are unopposed. And so really, for me, it's about democracy and giving people a choice in this election. So I guess I'll just say I'm grateful to be a part of it, and the shortened time frame doesn't really have an impact for me. It's just giving our community the option to, to go to the ballots and use their voice.
Well, I know you had to hit the ground running. I guess that's obviously one of the issues with being a short campaign time. So when you're talking to everybody, what has been the common refrain? What are voters saying when they meet you?
So, our media locally has been covering some of the really difficult drug overdoses and this epidemic that's been on the rise. In the last year, I think we had 348 overdoses. I mean, it's horrible. It's awful. It's incredibly important to think about the implications of this. Some people are talking about that, but for the most part, when I go out to the Prattsburgh Festival, or I'm going to
all the
local
festivals and fairs.
Right, exactly. I'm meeting with people, and I don't know if it's just who I am, but they're coming up to me and they're telling me their personal stories, intimate details of their lives and their family situations. Everybody knows someone who's been to family court. I mean,
of course.
There's so many family court cases, and so a lot of times what I hear is the court didn't, I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel listened to. I think that in the past, maybe there's been a lack of understanding. So part of it's been educational, but also just thinking about how in my future, empathy is a part of what I bring. But another issue that really isn't spoken about in the media as much, but comes up all the time in these conversations, is domestic violence. It's a real problem here in Steuben County, and we just don't talk about it enough. And it's just been on the rise since COVID. So if you look, you can pull up the data on this in Steuben County, and the number of DV cases that our local courts have handled has risen dramatically since 2020. I think it was 288 family offense petitions, and that's just one piece of where domestic violence comes in. But in this last year, in 2023, we had 534 family offense petitions filed. That's more than all the termination of parental rights, child protective, juvenile cases, adoptions, guardianship cases combined in the county. So family offense petitions, that's, think about when people are seeking an order of protection and it's a dangerous situation. 534 is a really big number here. So, for me, I've handled a lot of cases. primarily all of my family court cases have involved some aspect of domestic violence or sexual assault. And as you probably know, Frank, 50% of the cases or 50% of what people endure in domestic violence situations never even see the light of day. Right. You can think about all the reasons why someone wouldn't want to report it.
Of course.
So that, coupled with the fact that family defense petitions are just this one aspect of domestic violence that we see in the courts, it's really a gross underestimation of what's happening here in our county. My background, studying and teaching law, looking at that intersection between domestic violence and family law, and really focusing on a trauma-informed lawyering approach over the last several years has allowed me to be in a position to recognize trauma and its impact on the parties and the children involved. It is so important that we really acknowledge the prevalence of this and the impact of trauma, especially on kids. And it comes into our court system, and I think it's our duty as adjudicators to create that sense of safety in the courtroom, and that means having a deep understanding of domestic violence and what that entails. So for me, that's one of the things that voters are talking about, and like I said, opening up to me. Maybe it's just, as a mom or as a woman, I'm just connecting with people, and I'm hearing these stories, and I've also seen it firsthand in my practical legal experience.
Well, I think it's only fair. I'm trying to ask all the same questions that I asked your opponent. So how much of your day-to-day life is like Matlock and Perry Mason?
Yeah.
It's only fair, right? Nothing like it? No. Okay, I didn't think so.
Not at all.
We're talking about the race for Steuben County and family court judge. Where can people find out? Well, let's start with how can people help your campaign, and then we'll find out more.
Sure. One of the other things I was thinking that would be important to talk about is just some of the biggest issues that
not just what voters are saying. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry I skipped over that.
No, that's okay.
Here I'm asking about Matlock and Perry Mason and not focusing on what's important. But you're right, because it's not just what voters are saying that's obviously so vital, but there's going to be issues that you face that maybe we're not even aware of. What do you think the biggest issues you will face?
One of the things, so I'm on a couple different committees. One is a rural justice committee in upstate New York, thinking about how there's an aging population of attorneys, and there's so many open positions here in Steuben County. So in my role at Cornell, part of my job was connecting students and trying to encourage expert talent to stay here locally and to practice here. So I think that trying to recruit and train attorneys to stay in the rural area is really important, especially in the public service realm, in government, in legal aid. It's all part of access to justice, which is really a mission of mine, and accessibility in the courts is really important. So, we learned a lot through COVID, and there were a lot of changes in the law and allowing for technology to play a part in connecting people who might otherwise not have transportation or access to the courts. So for me, thinking creatively about accessibility, ensuring that everyone has the same access to the courts, whether that's doing a virtual hearing on particular applicable cases, and then finally just a coordinated response for mental health, drug treatment, and domestic violence resources. And I'm on one of these, the Permanent Commission on Access to Justice in New York State has this statewide these pilot programs where we're trying to get all of the service providers together and create a list to make sure that all those resources are out there and doing that outreach. So I think it's a part of the court's job to make sure that people who come before the court have access to those, and that the material is front and center so that all of the service providers, we know who's out there and doing what. But your last question.
Yes, how we can help. Sorry about that.
Yes, that's all right. Yeah. If you're interested in getting involved, you can like our Facebook page, follow it, visit our website. You can volunteer. We have lots to do in a short period of time, as you know. If you're interested in a yard sign, we have the Democratic Committee office here. It's the old Tommy Hilfiger building. You can right down the street. You can reach out to us via the website. If it's closed, we can bring a sign right to your door. And I also just want to mention that in the last presidential election, only about 70% of the people in Steuben County voted. So the biggest thing that people can do is get out there and vote. I can't emphasize that enough to your viewers. You have a voice in this election. It's really important to get out there and vote. And I'm confident that the voters here in Steuben County will elect a judge with a deep commitment to public service, broad legal experience, and a real appreciation for family values.
And you mentioned the website. What is the website?
friendsofmichaela.com.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Frank.
And we'll
I
talk
appreciate
again
it.
before
All
November.
right. Sounds great.
All right.
Thank
We'll be
you.
right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Trust your smile to Dr. Joshua Henches at Watkins Glen Family Dentistry. Buffalo graduate and member of the American and New York Dental Associations, Dr. Henches offers treatment in all areas of general dentistry, including same-day crowns, implants, root canals, oral surgery, and Sure Smile orthodontics. Trust Dr. Henches and his staff for the best dental care in the region. Visit our office at 703 South Decatur Street in Watkins Glen, or visit us online at watkinsglenfamilydentistry.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. You're watching Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our guest, Michaela Rossetti Azimi, candidate for Steuben County and Family Court Judge. We appreciate it. The Meet the Candidates section of our program. So we get back to the breaking news of the day. I mentioned right before break, 95% of major network coverage, according to Media Research Center, of Trump was negative, 95%. After the second assassination attempt, we brought you that story from the New York Post and some of the headlines blaming Trump for the assassination attempt on his life, the second, and essentially the first. According to Fox News, they spoke, and we're learning a little bit more about the attempted assassin. Retired FBI Supervisor Special Agent Scott Duffy says it seems as if Routh is someone who is constantly trying to poke somebody and see what the response is going to be. It's not only a lengthy criminal arrest record that he has, but for several decades, you have his escalation of violent acts, and then, of course, other contacts with police, like driving without a license. Those are not violent acts, but they are constant contacts with police. That tells me that over the past few decades, whatever was going through his head, he wanted to be in contact with law enforcement. Routh's attitude was that he was above everybody. He could do what he wanted. It didn't matter. He was pretty entitled. He ran his mouth quite a bit about how he could get off and how he owned a successful business and nobody could do anything to him and how he knew everybody in Greensboro. Ooh. But it also goes to the point of when he thought he was, going to end the war, etc. But I mentioned, and if you watched it, I'd love to hear your opinion. Pardon me, I got a frog in my throat. I'd like to get your opinion on the Gutfeld episode. Did you watch it? Like I said, I've watched about half of it. Well, Donald Trump's appearance on Gutfeld gave Gutfeld the largest audience in its program's history. Now, if you look at the numbers, Gutfeld oftentimes beats what you would consider the normal late night shows. And watching the media try to cover Trump's appearance on this was quite awkward because they didn't really know what Gutfeld is, right? So they'd say a late night talk show. You could tell it was with kind of an air of mystery to it. Now Trump joined Gutfeld for the entire hour. And again, I know I mentioned this earlier, but to see the clear contrast where you have Kamala in a very scripted, very matter-of-fact interview with Oprah and kind of how she handled it and kind of in many ways, I think maybe the acting part of it, if you will. And you see Trump having to, especially with Gutfeld's sense of humor, whatever you think of it, I'd love to hear your opinion. Whatever you think of it, it's a kind of off-the-wall sense of humor. And Trump rolling with the punches, going right along with it, doing a great job. Gutfeld averaged 4.9 million total viewers and 744,000 in the advertiser-coveted demographic of adults aged 25 to 54. It was the largest audience Gutfeld has drawn among both categories since it launched back in 2021. Gutfeld also had more total views than the season premieres of CBS Survivor and ABC's The Golden Bachelorette, making it the most watched show in all of cable and broadcast primetime on Wednesday. But that can't make any sense. It makes no sense because if you listen to the polls and you listen to the election forecasters, no one likes Trump. No one wants to see Trump anymore. It's one of the reasons why they don't cover his rallies. They can't give him the platform because no one really wants to watch him. While Wednesday night's episode set records, Gutfeld is regularly among the most watched cable news programs in America and finished August as the #1 cable news program in that key demo. And again, even though #1, the legacy media, the mainstream media, don't know anything about him, don't know what the show is or even how to handle it. We got to take another break. As you can imagine, we are running a little bit late, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Hazlitt 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
The BIX website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back. Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, we're going to have to take a break. relatively quickly here. We've got a few things that we're going to just kind of jump around on. I know I hinted towards this. I don't know if you saw the breaking news, but New York Magazine's Washington correspondent, I'm going to be careful here with how I describe some of what's happened, but Olivia Nuzzi was placed on leave after she had an alleged romantic relationship with former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I know there's probably some Kennedy joke there. Nuzzi, without naming the 70-year-old Kennedy, admitted in a Thursday night statement that earlier this year, quote, the nature of some communication. So this was all over the cell phone. It wasn't personal contact is the way I've read it. Some communications between myself and a former reporting subject turned personal. The 31-year-old star political reporter, Olivia Nuzzi, okay, insisted the relationship was not physical in nature. Sources told the Post that Nuzzi and RFK Jr. were allegedly, we'll say, talking while she was engaged and he was married. Nuzzi penned a profile on Kennedy that was published in November of 2023, and sometime after that, too, began their alleged fling. Wow. You know, it's interesting because what is Kennedy's wife's name? I know I should know it off the top of my head. Well-known actress, and she's received so much pushback, even like offhanded threats that you may not work again because you haven't done enough to go after your husband. Very interesting. Just breaking news. We got to take another short break. Stay with us. Get your last-minute comments in. I know it's been a busy morning. We've covered a lot. We have a few last-minute things to cover. And, of course, I've got a few more things to promote. Because, remember, it's all about community here on Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Not because of how easy it is to use, or because of our expert dealers. Not even because it has implements for every job. You just have to get in the seat, because breaking ground on your dream home feels pretty great.
Right now at Lindsay Equipment, get up to $1,000 off and 0% financing for 60 months on all 2023 John Deere compact tractors in stock.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight.
Skylar, come here.
Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We have to take another short break in just a moment. We're getting some last-minute waves in. I appreciate that. Thank you. Did you see there's a swing state Democrat who, much like Kamala Harris, has taken up the Trump-inspired no tax on tips bill? Now, it was very interesting when Kamala Harris took that idea from Trump just days after Trump started making the big announcements. Do you remember how the media covered it? They tried to give her full credit. I remember the headline from the one, and I can't remember the outlet, and I apologize, where it said Kamala Harris's new proposal receives overwhelming support from Republican voters. And the comments were, yes, because it is Trump's proposal, not Kamala Harris's. But now we have a swing state Democrat who is introducing the Trump-inspired no tax on tips bill in Congress. Representative Stephen Horsford introduced legislation that would give federal income relief to tipped workers earning less than $112,500 yearly. The Tipped Income Protection and Supports Act, or TIPS Act, grants a tax break to qualifying cosmetology, hospitality, and food and beverage service workers, parking attendants, and custodial service employees. Asked if the provisions will apply to Nevada's casino dealers or to, we'll say, workers in the legal brothels in Nevada, a Horsford spokesman told the Post, hospitality is a very broad category that would include many workers in Nevada. Horsford said the bill would also eliminate the sub-minimal wage for tipped workers, forcing employers to pay both the federal minimum wage and pass along tips. Boy, the Democrats are loving Trump's ideas. That's why I like in the debate when Trump had said something to the extent of, Harris is taking all my ideas. We're going to get her a MAGA hat. All right, let's do this. Let's take our last break. And then we'll have a little extra time at the back end to get through our last stories. As you know, it's Friday, so we go through them very quickly. And it'll give you time to get your last-minute comments in. Thank you to the viewer that called in. I understand your point very much, and I appreciate that. Thank you. So keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
It's Western. It's Reese Ranch Rodeo. Looking for a new exciting adventure? Join the cowboys and cowgirls at Reese Ranch Rodeo. Fun for the whole family. Kids 5 and under are free. Gates open at 2 p.m. Rodeo starts at 7. Enjoy great music, great food, cold drinks, and classic rodeo fun. For event dates and ticket prices, visit ReeseRanchRodeo.com. Reese Ranch Rodeo, 4115 Oldfield Drive, Corning, next to Fair and Ball Campgrounds.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back. Hard to believe we are nearly out of time on the Friday edition of Frankly Speaking. A very, very good point from Ken. He writes, Trump should immediately say that his proposed policies are so good that Congress is already starting to implement them. I couldn't agree more, Ken. He should hit the ground running at a time when nothing of substance is normally done in Washington, which you could say about all the time, but right before an election, that this person knew that Trump's idea is so good that they're willing to put it up during this kind of dead season of anything of substance, because people mostly don't want to hang their hats on anything right before Election Day. That's Washington for you. But yes, Ken, Trump should hit the ground running with that. I couldn't agree more. The Biden-Harris border official has claimed that that there is a cover-up as he was allegedly ordered to hide release of migrants. This comes after Jerome Powell said that the high unemployment rates are because of the open, porous borders, with a former Border Patrol official responsible for securing nearly 1,000 miles of America's frontier has charged the Biden-Harris administration initially covered up the ongoing migrant crisis. Ex-San Diego Sector Chief Agent Aaron Hetke told members of the House Homeland Security Committee that the White House repeatedly tried to quiet the border-wide crisis by shielding information from the press and concealing crossings by dangerous migrants with terror ties. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them, he testified. Now, he retired back in the summer of 2023 and appeared voluntarily before the panel. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. Thank you, taxpayer. This was the administration's way to try to quiet the border-wide crisis. All right, how we doing? Oh, I meant to mention this earlier. I've got my paperwork out of order. I've got two last things, and get those last minute comments in, folks. We're just about to wrap up before I make all my big announcements about what's going on this weekend. NFL Hall of Fame coach Tony Dungy. Did you see his blistering response to Kamala Harris? Harris has been unapologetic about her stance on abortion rights for women. And she posted, I mean, you know, we know that. This is what she's really been campaigning on. So she posted on X, one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and certainly Donald Trump, should not be telling women what to do with her body. A woman to do with her body. Dungy, if you remember Dungy, I was like Tony Dungy. I think he was doing some, I haven't watched in a while. I'll be fully admit, but I know he was doing some commentary. But he was the first black head coach to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the modern era, and second all time. Is a man of faith. He's written books about it. Very good Christian man. He tweeted out, "Dear VP Harris, I hear you make this statement all the time. Exactly what faith are you talking about when you say you don't have to abandon it to support abortion? Are you talking about the Christian faith that says all babies are made in the image of God, Genesis 1:26, that God places them in the womb, and what got cut off here, and that he should not take, and that we should not take any life unjustly, Luke 18:20? Are you talking about the faith or some nebulous general faith that says we're good enough and smart enough to make our own decisions? What faith are you talking about?" Wow. Wow. If he isn't commentary, if he does do commentary, he may not anymore. One last thing, last story. According to a report from Fox News, Fox News senior strategic analyst General Jack Keane, who's now retired, he was on Fox and Friends. And he said that the United States is sleepwalking into World War III. Experts warn that the nation is underprepared. We do not have our Churchill. And we've talked about this on the program going back to almost episode 1, where our leaders in Washington not taking seriously the threat of China specifically, but Iran, Russia. And with China, mostly due to, what is it? Follow the money. At the end of the day, it's all about the money. So you can find that piece at Fox News. We are out of time. Couple quick things. I received this from a viewer early on in the program. I wanted to mention it again. The Crystal City Band Competition will be held tomorrow at Corning Memorial Stadium in Corning. I think that goes without saying, at 5:45 p.m. Also coming up, that's where we go a little button crazy here. Coming up is the Heritage Festival. We had Charlotte Smith on yesterday. Appreciate her being on the show. Don't miss that event. That's a fun event. It used to be called the Wing Blinger over at the Benjamin Patterson Inn. It's tomorrow from 10 to 4 p.m. Also, don't forget to stop by. I know, I'm going quick, folks. Bear with me. Stop by Tractor Supply on your way to maybe Heritage Fest, or there's Harvest Fest in Corning. Don't forget that on Market Street. Stop over at Tractor Supply in Painted Post before you head over here into Corning from 9 till 3 and drop off those items and help out the Steuben County Domestic Violence Shelter as we near October, which is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And that is all brought to you by, they're manning the booth, is the Armed Women of America, Steuben County. We've talked with them in the past, and we're in talks to talk again. How about that? And finally, and we're going to keep this up on the screen for the rest of the time, because I'm making one last push, folks. No, we're not turning into a telethon. We're not turning into an infomercial. But the overwhelming support for not just the Salvation Army fundraiser, but also for this fundraiser has been just remarkable. Again, I think that's what makes us different on this program than any other outlet, because you, the viewer, are so, number one, so generous. And like I said yesterday, I don't think a Rachel Maddow would receive these kind of generous donations. But then again, most of the time when you hear a more liberal outlet looking for money, it's a PBS or NPR looking for support from viewers like you, as if your taxpayer dollars that go to them to get all the best and new equipment, if that wasn't enough. But we're not doing that. I'm not asking you to send me a check personally. We want this to go to the amazing Walk to End Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's group. So if you want to register, it's not too late. Volunteers may be a little late. I don't know when the cutoff for that is. But if you want to register, you see the website on the bottom of your screen, the very bottom of that box. But if you want to donate to Team Big Fox, we're not going to say no. We'd love to have your support, and we're going to be walking around the racetrack. So if you're there, make sure you say hi tomorrow. Well, that does it for us this week. Unbelievable, isn't it? Thank you for everyone who joined us. Thank you for all the great comments. Thank you to our guest, Michaela Rossetti Azimi. Next week on Monday's show, we're going to be talking with Nancy Ryan, the Director of Development at Finger Lakes Donor Recovery Network. That's all about giving life, and we're booked up all next week. All right, that does it. Have a great weekend. We'll see you bright and early Monday morning. I look forward to it already.